wonderful to have you here, listening in with a big heart, open ears, open mind, all of the things to our latest success story here at Inspired Coach Podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to be bringing you today a really wonderful, beautiful You Coaching Academy alumni, all the way from beautiful New Zealand in Tash Pieterse. Tash has such an interesting and wonderful area of coaching and journey that she's going to share ahead in her success story today. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about her. Tash is a certified leadership and mindset coach who helps ambitious professionals lead with less burnout, overwhelm, and self-doubt so they can live and work with more clarity, confidence, and energy. I think that there are going to be so many of you, even if you do not necessarily work in the professional/corporate space like Tash does, and she has a background in HR, that are going to find her success story and journey so interesting. And I think that there is a particular aspect of her journey around the global pandemic that is really key to the incredible success that Tash now finds herself experiencing, enjoying, and really embodying in her business in amazing ways. Now, that might sound a little odd to say because, of course, the pandemic for all of us in varying ways was such a challenging time and even a devastating grief-filled and trauma-filled time. Tash has had that experience, of course, like all of us as human beings through the pandemic, but there was something really incredible that she did during that time for herself and her business that allowed her to be able to expand and grow everything that she does in her coaching business to amazing success through deep, deep service of her ideal client. So I hope you really enjoy listening to this success stories of Tash. She is doing such incredible, amazing work, full-time in her business now, thriving in so many different ways. Enjoy this success story ahead with Tash Pieterse. Tash Pieterse, welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast and your success story. I am so thrilled to be having this conversation with you today.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much.
Oh, look, Tash, I just want to begin from the begin, really to cast your mind back, to ask you to do that, please, and begin by telling us today what was happening in your life as a whole when you first decided that you wanted to train to become a coach. Were you traveling? Were you in the one spot? What job were you doing? Were you a mum at that point in time like you are now? What was going on for you?
Oh, it is quite the cast back, isn't it? Trying to think back to 2018 now. So no, I wasn't a mum then. Very much was not. Still living the full-time sleep life. So back then I had just finished doing a 6 or 8 week travel through Europe. My now husband, but boyfriend back then, was back in New Zealand. I had finished a contract, and the year prior I was actually made redundant, and I decided I was never going to be permanently employed again. I was like, if I can just get made redundant, what even is that, right? Like, what even is that security? What power and control do I actually have over my sense of security from my job? And I mean, since 4 years after that, 2 years after that, we learnt that even more. But that time, when I got back from traveling, I went into a prestigious role, an HR role. I was working in HR. That was my corporate career. And I went to one of the big four accounting firms. So in the HR space, that's, that's the badge on the CV, it's the top tier to work for a firm like that. And I was miserable. I just didn't, and it's the classic rose-colored glasses. I noticed it across my whole career. I was always the challenger, the questioner. I never stayed in jobs long because I just couldn't fit into that mold of needing to be this specific type of person. And at that time in 2018, when I got back from traveling and I started this job, I was just so miserable. And my husband now, Kyle, he had been doing he coaching study. I didn't even know coaching existed. Like, I was like, what even is this? Didn't even know coaching was a thing. Didn't even know you could do that. You know, even though in HR you tend to coach and advise a lot, coaching kind of naturally falls part of that role. But I never knew that it was something that you actually studied and could do and you could intentionally do. And he was talking to me about mindset, you know, and he said to me, because I was like, I just need to find another job. And he was like, wherever you go, you will be. And I was like, I hate that statement. I was like, if I just change jobs, everything will be fine. And that kind of started this whole questioning of like, what really is mindset? What is the mind? How does that impact the way that we view and see the world? And then I reached out to my first coach, not a biker coach, but, you know, I worked with her and I was like, oh my word, like to be questioned, to be challenged, to think differently, to kind of get outside of your own head. It's like, wow, like it was life changing. And I was like, I need to find out more about this. And I got headhunted to go to another role, which I loved, and I got to build a team. And I started my study in October 2018, coincided with that career change. And so I signed up with Biker, and I was just like, yep, this is it. Like, this is what I need to be doing. It fitted in with my personality type of being a questioner, being a challenger to how things are, to how things should be, to the norms, to the status quo, and then learning a coaching framework of how to actually move someone through that process of from where they are to where they want to be. I knew that that's what I needed to be doing. That's it. Even just doing the study took because I was still working in HR before I went full-time in my business, that even just took my career to the next level, because the way that I then questioned, the way that I showed up in the meetings that I was having with my team members and the managers that I supported just changed. And then I started with, you know, beta clients and utilized, you know, the biker community and just started building my practice. And in 2020, when the world changed, when the world shifted on its axis, I went full time. I just said, this is it. I'm going in. And that's kind of what led to coaching. And so I've been in my coaching practice almost 5 years together, but almost 4 years full time. And best decision I ever made. Like, absolutely the best decision.
Amazing. And I can see that in your joyous face as you are talking about it, which is so wonderful. So, Tash, let's go step by step here, because you've now been coaching full-time for 4 years, which is truly incredible. And I want to talk to you about the bravery of making that decision in COVID times, of making that leap full-time. But tell us, what was the first 12 months like out for you? You know, when you first graduated, because that's often, I find, well, it's just crucial. That first year, everyone has different experiences of it, and no two people's story is the same. But you obviously were doing some things and maybe not doing some things as well in that first 12 months that has allowed you to platform into the success that you've later on experienced, because we know that all businesses build over time. They don't just happen in a snap, they build over time. So what did you feel that you did in that first 12 months that has set you up for the success that you're now experiencing?
Such a juicy question. I'm coaching a few early stage coaches at the moment, and this is the critical question that they ask me as well. Like, what did you do? And you know what? I played. You know, I played and I experimented, and I can look back now and appreciate the slowness that I took, because I still worked as an HR consultant. So, and that was my bread and butter. That's what gave me my income. So I didn't put the pressure on my coaching business to be the money earner. And I didn't put the pressure on it because I know that one of my challenges with my mindset is I can quickly fall into scarcity. I can quickly fall into fear. So I'm very mindful of that. Obviously more now than I was then. But I played a lot, and I just followed that, like, what do I like doing? So my prices were super cheap. Like I think I started with like a 3-month series was like, I don't know, $400. I can't remember, but it was very cheap because I was like, I just want people in. I want to get the exposure. I want to get the experience. I want to test, my skills. I want to test what problem I really want to be solving. And, that was, I think that was one of the things I struggled with even during study, was like niching. And I was like, but I don't know yet. I don't know what that is. And I allowed myself to be like, you know what? I don't need to know all of that, but I need to have a starting point. And that's what Biker gave me, which I loved. It's like, yeah, okay, I can start from here and then play. And the very first thing I actually did was I ran a little half-day workshop/retreat. I'm a huge introvert, but I love in person. I love group work. I run group programs and I love it. It just lights me up in a different way. And I just thought, I'm just going to run something super simple and just, I think I charged like $40, and I provided lunch and I got some sponsors to provide drinks. And it was 4 hours with a group of women, and they brought each of them brought a friend, and it was just like the best 4 hours. I actually, this is the first time I've really thought about it since then. I was like, that has to be like one of the best 4 hours of my business, I would say, just like kind of going back to the energy of that time. And that's when I got my first paying client. One of the women who came to that, she was a friend of someone I knew, never met her before, didn't know her, didn't follow her. She didn't follow me. She didn't know who I was. And 2 weeks later, she reached out and she said, I need to work with you. Like, I loved being in your space. I need to work with you and move forward. And she's just signed up for her 4th series with me over the last 4 years. And that was one of the things I did. I kept things simple. I built my own website. I didn't have these flashy things. I used whatever was free. But mostly I was like, what do I just like doing without the pressure of it having to be anything or mean anything? And I think also then maybe we weren't as bombarded like we are now on Instagram and social media with this pressure of being 6 figures and 7 figures and whatever figures we're talking about now. Like, I think we had a bit of luxury then to do that. But I think, like, if there's one thing I would say in the first 12 months is, like, give yourself the grace to play. If you know that you have tendencies to fall into fear-based thinking or fear-based decision-making, and the world does not help with that, give yourself the grace to find how you can create spaciousness in your business to play at the beginning, and there's times when I'm jealous and I look at other businesses and I'm like, man, they grew so quickly, or they got to 6 figures way faster, or they got to the million way faster. And I'm like, oh, if I'd done things differently, could I have gotten there faster? And I'm like, I wasn't meant to. I wasn't meant to get there faster, because I wouldn't be here now.
Yes, and having a business as a full-time coach that many people would be highly envious of in their own way. And so each to their own. Honestly, I just could not love that more, Tash, about
Thank you.
playing and just exploring what you love to do and being intentional. And thank you for sharing the story as well about how you got your first paying client, which I think is always, there's a whole podcast in and of that in itself. It's like someone should start a podcast that just has people telling stories about how I got my first paying client. That would be a great show.
Yes.
I would
You could do a series. You could do an inspired coach series on it.
Do you know what?
I think I'm going to take that, because we could just dive completely into that altogether. And I think that that's just a really wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing it. There's something really important that I want to pick up on, Tash, that you mentioned in there, which I think is incredibly key. And it is a part of your success. Everyone, believe me when I tell you that it is. Tash said something very key there, and that is that she did not rely too early on her coaching business to generate income that she and her husband at that time were reliant upon in any way. This is actually one of the biggest, if I can say so, in inverted commas, mistakes that I see early and emerging coaches make. They leave the safety and security of paying income far too early and just don't have that exploration phase and working phase behind them, like what you described. I had that phase for myself. It went over many years. And it helps us in so many ways not to place that level of pressure on us, does it? Apart from the fact, first of all, that you're going to sleep better at night and you're going to have a more regulated nervous system. But clearly you, looking back now, recognize that that was really, really important for you not to leap too early.
Absolutely. And I don't appreciate it as much. I didn't appreciate it as much then because, it's like but I want to be full time. And I think back then that was actually like the epitome of success in the coaching business, whereas we're at a very different marker now. But that was what it was then, of like being a full-time coach in your business. And I think that there's like a key tipping point where we stay in what's going to give us the most safety to play, the most energetic expansion, I would say, because when we're stifled by fear, we're no longer in energetic alignment to attract and be open to the opportunities that we really want to be. We kind of fall into, I'll just take whatever I can get and I'll lower my prices, or, and we just do all sorts of unhelpful things. But there is that tipping point where if your business is starting to go well, you've had that time to play, you've had that time to really build what feels like a really nurturing and connected business to you. The tipping point then comes of, okay, but how much am I staying too much in the safety? Whereas I need to now expand and step into that next level. And that's what 2020 was for me, where it's like I spent a year and a half really kind of building and playing and finding my feet. And I then needed to, and another coach actually said to me, she was like, so when are you going full time? And I was like, well, I don't know, because HR is my bread and butter and, that pays the bills. And she's like, coaching will never become your bread and butter unless you make the space for it. And I loved that, but I needed to be ready for that. And I think that the readiness doesn't mean that I didn't have some level of fear, because that's human.
Of course.
But I didn't, again, like I had the safety net, I built the savings, I did those things that would give me safety to make the leap. And that goes to your point, I think, Julie, where the trying to meet milestones overrides the what actually is going to give you safety to take the leap. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of like, that's something that always sticks with me, is like how grounded and safe do I feel in this risk? It doesn't mean that I'm risk averse. It doesn't mean that I don't want to take the risk, but I need to have some sense of groundedness and safety in myself to really step into that risk. And appreciating that about myself has been so monumental for me in my business.
Well, it shows a level of how important your own self-awareness is to you, and paying attention to that and working with that rather than against that, which is really powerful. So, going full-time in the midst of a global pandemic. Okay, tell us a little bit about that. Because there would be some people that even if they felt ready, might have thought at that time, well, I can't do this now because of this. Then again, we also know that for some people that time actually ended up being a catalyst, which it clearly sounds like it was for you, to leap into now this amazing life leadership and career and executive coaching business that you now have. So tell us a little bit about making the decision at that time. And did you have some worried folks around you that might have been, are you sure, or did you receive lots of support?
I'll answer the second question second. So I'll go in the order. So there are people who leverage opportunity and people who wait for opportunity, I would say. So the pandemic hit, I was still doing HR consulting, but all of my clients now switched to, we need to make people redundant. We need to emergency response. We need to cut costs. We don't know what we're doing. Blah, like the world is ending, from a business sense. And I just didn't want to do it. I was like, I can't be spending the majority of my working time thinking of ways to stop people having jobs. I can't. That can't be what I'm spending my energy and my skills and my experience doing. Even though that's what I had been doing for the majority of my career,
Sure.
It just didn't feel like that just was not what I wanted to be doing amidst what was happening. And when we went into lockdown, New Zealand went hard fast, with that. And I started running Tea with Tash. They were little, just, hey, let's just jump online, let's just chat, let's, do some journaling. They were just free little sessions. And in those sessions, I ran them every week for, I think, 2 or 3 months. And I just started getting people being like, hey, I really want to work with you. Like, I want to take the next step. I want to take control. Everything feels out of control. And I also, the opportunity that I leveraged was New Zealand were in an extremely strict lockdown, which meant the majority of the people who I tend to work with were no longer going out to party, to drink, to eat, to shop, to find all of the ways that they spend all their money to numb all of the ways that they are unhappy in their life. So where can that money now go? And that's what I leveraged. I was like, this is the time to leverage the fact that people now have time because they're not commuting, they're not going anywhere, they're not doing any of these other things, and they have disposable income that they're now not spending at the rate at which they were. That was the opportunity I leveraged.
So smart.
And I did that through free events. And I just showed up and I coached for free, created a space for people to come and talk to and decompress and process what was happening and showcase what I could do to serve them and move them forward. And that's where it went.
So smart. I'm just going to say it again. So smart. Oh, and Tash, can I also just say, steeped in the vision, mission, and values of a beautiful you coach. How can I serve? How can I serve? How can I help people? And do that from a place of generosity and spirit, and know in my heart, both energetically and strategically, that is highly likely to have good things come and flow to me, as in clients, subscribers, sign-ups, more money, things like that. So incredibly smart and well done to you. But you know what is even more well done is that we're now talking, you and I are having this conversation in 2024. So we are talking nearly 4 years later, at least 3. I don't know the exact timings of it, and that's not really important. We're talking about at the height of the pandemic, and there are still impacts of that, of course, but we are beyond the emergency of it that we were in, and there are no more lockdowns. And you are still running a thriving full-time coaching business. So what do you attribute that to? Because folks have gone back to work now. The commute has begun again. They're going out to restaurants again. The disposable income has shifted. And so tell us about your business now, and what do you think has allowed you to bridge from there to 2024?
So I do corporate coaching now. So the pivot kind of came. So I was really life and mindset focused, and that brought to the surface how many of the clients I ended up working with being professionals. You know, they were struggling in how to thrive in their life, in their work, and have a life. And that's the main thing that I really worked with them on. And so 2021, I was running a program, and one of the participants in that program, she was a graduate lawyer. She was in her first year post-law study. And she said to me, if you adapted this program for new professionals, this would be game-changing. And I was like, interesting. Because I've always mentored grads. I've always mentored like early level professionals, always. And I was like, that's interesting. And I looked at different ways that I could do it. I had a few interviews with a few recent grads, and I created Thriving New Professionals. And I ran a pilot, and it was successful with the pilot group that I ran. And I was like, this is go. And so I created a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And I said, this program is going to be in every company in New Zealand. Ooh. And that year, 2021, 2 government agencies signed up to the program as part of their grad program. Those government agencies are now in their 3rd year running it with me. And again, leveraged opportunity, listened, what was needed. And what has attributed the biggest amount of success, I would say, and the most sustainable success for me is I'm a business to business coach mostly, and business as in corporate entities. And what I do is I bridge the gap for professionals to thrive in corporate environments. You know, one of the biggest things that I guess is happening is everyone is becoming an entrepreneur. Everyone is seeking that out as the means to live a fulfilled life. But we still need people who work 9 to 5. We still need people who work full time, who work in organizations, because that will, that maintains our structures, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And so I was like, why not go straight to the organizations and push them and challenge the status quo of how they build their people and how they support their people. And that has been the best business decision I made, because I still do business to individual, I still do one-to-one leadership coaching, but predominantly I push every person who works with me to tell their organization to pay for it, because one, why shouldn't they? They're the ones that's going to benefit from it. But 2, it gives access. It creates access where it may not always be or may not always be available. But the key business decision for me energetically was, what is the easiest and most fulfilling business model that I can create to sustain the income that I need and to sustain my energy management? In human design, I'm a projector. I don't have a lot of energy on tap all of the time. And I realize now why I never thrived in corporate environments. But that was a key question for me. I was like, I can't launch all the time. I shouldn't say I can't. I don't want to launch all the time. It's just not a model that I like doing. Again, joy. And I can haggle corporate companies. That was my dream in HR. I was like, I will challenge, and I will tell you why you should do it differently. And I tell you why you should do this thing that I'm telling you to do. That's my dream. I was like, so how can I build a business model about it? That's what I've done while serving and creating change. But it appeases to my strengths. It appeases to my zone of genius of being a challenger, being a pusher in an otherwise structure that wouldn't normally be. But it's a model that I can maintain. And I think this is the key thing, and my roundabout way of answering this question is, the key question I really, really had to sit with is, what is a model that I can sustain?
And it is such a smart question that you asked yourself. Not enough folks do. I think that what happens is that they see and look at what other people are doing and then think, okay, that's what success is. I need to do that. And it's not to say that there may not be elements of other businesses that won't work for us, but there also could be many things about other businesses that just simply are not aligned with our own energy and what is best for us. And you know what, Tash? You deserve all of this incredible success that you're having for many, many different reasons. You're just a beautiful, incredible human being. But also, can we just go back to hashtag so smart? Like every time I'm going to think about you now, from now on, I'm just going to be saying, do you know that Tash Pieterse? So smart. She is.
Oh, that's a tag I'll happily carry.
Yeah, exactly. Hashtag so smart. Like seriously, you have just tapped into this zone for yourself. You have ridden your previous level of experience. You have obviously tapped into networks that you have had. You've found your own energetic zone of what is great and right for you. And here you are, a full-time, successful, award-nominated, thriving coach. So I just want to send you so much love and congratulations. We are so proud to have you as a part of our Beautiful You alumni and community, and just keep going, keep it doing and being you. You're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are so welcome, everyone. I introduced Tash at the start of today. You know where to find her. I deeply encourage you that if you are somebody who is thinking about coming into coaching or is already there, and you either come from a HR or corporate background, or you think that that might be the zone or energy of coaching that is calling you, check out this So Smart woman's work and website and see the depth and breadth of all of the things that she does in varying different ways, because there's no doubt that you will find inspiration there. Tash, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Julie. It was such a pleasure.